do we know already not to trust every single thought that comes to our mind? We have to learn to let go of that chokehold that we have on trying to control every single aspect of our lives. I really be catastrophizing things. And the thing is that for me, I had a conversation with my husband yesterday, and he was just reminding me of how ridiculous I sounded. When we are having these fears and these thoughts, like, they're not real, and they really are a misuse of our imagination. And we could be thinking so many brighter, lighter, more joyful, more life-giving thoughts. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the show, or welcome back to the show if it's your first time tuning in to the Money Making Housewife Show. I am so happy to have you here, and I'm so happy to get into today's topic. It's gonna be kind of funny. It could be a little bit funny, but also really real. I mean, that's like literally that's really how I do these episodes, is that a thought comes to me and I'm like, I should talk about that. And 99.9% of the time, these are thoughts that came about from something that happened in my own life, usually recently. So listen, like I said, we on this journey together. This stuff is not easy. Being a wife, being a mom, pursuing your goals. If you're doing all three, oh my goodness, hats off to you and me, because that's what I'm doing. But it's real out here in these streets, okay? And life be lifing. So we gotta just continue to support each other and just remind each other that we're not alone, and talk about our real true feelings and our real thoughts and things that we're actually going through. Let me caveat real quick. Things that we're going through after we've worked through them, you know what I mean? Because I do feel like it's a little bit irresponsible to just share everything as it comes to our mind or as we're dealing with it. And some of the things that we share could, you haven't really fully figured it out yet. Like, you haven't really fully flushed the story out, or you haven't really got the lesson yet. And so I just choose to share things that I know that you can relate to, because I feel like if I'm going through something, I am not the only person. And if you're listening to the podcast, then you definitely are in this boat with me too, girl, because life. But hey, it's a game, right? Like, life is a game. So here we are in this game together. We're just trying to figure it out. We're just trying to do the best we can. We're trying to be the best we could be the best mom, be the best wife, be the best future mom, wife, partner, CEO, be the best future boss, current boss, whatever, okay? So anyways, let me get into the show because I have to go pick up my daughter very soon. So today's title is most likely going to be, you're ridiculous. You are ridiculous. Girl, do you know some of the thoughts that come to your mind? Do we know already not to trust every single thought that comes to our mind? Because we can't trust every thought that comes to our mind. Not all of our thoughts are true. Just because they pop up into our brains does not mean that they're true, okay? Even if you feel them, even if they just seem so real and we have painted a whole picture in our mind, listen, they're not all the way true, okay, girl? And let me tell you, so I have this habit of catastrophizing everything. I do, and it really started when I became a mom. And I had to look this up because I'm like, this can't just be me. Like, why? And my mom friends who I talk to, they share similar fears as me. And the fears are not all around, oh my God, is my kid gonna, it's a lot of it is around the state of the world. And, this is why I don't watch the news, because I personally, the way that my mind just goes and it kind of will spiral, it's not good for nobody. It's not good for nobody. And then I start to, sometimes it is hard for me to discern, okay, girl, you separate. It's hard. Sometimes it's harder to separate what is actually happening from what can potentially happen and what's probably never going to happen. And that's my biggest problem, right? And so this episode comes from a conversation that I had with my husband literally just yesterday, and it made me think. I ain't gonna lie, I ain't gonna tell him that. No, don't tell him that, because I don't think he's listening. I'm pretty sure he's not listening. But yeah, don't tell him that I told you that he made me he was right. Don't tell him that I told you that. But Listen, before we get into that, the gem of the day. Today's gem of the day is, I got this from a website actually, recently, a website called iMom, as I was doing research for the episode. And it said that most fears and worries are a misuse of the imagination. And why that is so appropriate, you will soon learn, but really think about it. The things, like I said, our thoughts are not all real. So the things that we are fearing, the things that we are thinking could potentially happen, and it might happen, and oh my God, this happened in this country, and what if it happens over here, but it hasn't happened, but it might happen, and what can I do to prevent that, and what can I do? It's like, girl, sit down, and honestly, I think what will bring most of us a lot more joy and peace in our lives is to really just focus on the things that we can actually control, and definitely, do your best to prepare for, whatever. Do your best to be prepared and all of that. Stack your toilet paper for sure. But don't let it take over your life, and don't just automatically kind of train your brain to not automatically go to the worst things that can happen. And like I'm talking to you, I'm talking to me too, because girl, trust me, your girl be struggling sometimes, and I feel like I do a pretty good job of balancing it out. But honestly, sometimes it's harder than others. Sometimes you are going through something in life where you're just you definitely see the world through a different lens. And I definitely have compassion and empathy for anyone going through something dark right now, where it kind of clouds your vision and your judgment on everything else in life. And it's really, really hard for you to see the joy. It's really, really hard for you to see the light. And I totally understand. I get that. I have been there. I have recently gone through something that really just rocked my world. And it's not the easiest. It's not easy. You know what I mean? But there are perspectives that we can adopt that will just make this whole life experience a lot more joyful and easier, honestly, easier for us to get through, because I think that so many of us just look at everything to do with life, and we look at every single challenge and every single bit of a struggle that we're going through as oh my God, this is the worst thing ever. This is the worst thing in the world. I can't believe this happened to me. I can't believe, and what good does that do? For real. So even us, I'm talking to the women out there, any moms out there. We have so many fears that go through our mind on a daily basis. I know women who struggle with insomnia due to just thinking about all the things, all the responsibilities, and everything that they cannot control, and it keeps them up at night, really. And at some point, we have to learn to let go. We have to learn to let go of that chokehold that we have on trying to control every single aspect of our lives, and trying to make sure that we are doing everything that we can do to prepare our kids for, anything, to prepare our kids for life and love and relationships, and, making money and making a living, and then being a good citizen, and being, how to accept rejection from different people, all these different things, right? How to prepare them for that, while also going through our own life journey, and maybe not even sometime realizing that we are still learning ourselves. We are still learning and growing and maturing, and we are on our own path as well. And then, you want to be a wife, you want to be a partner, you want to go start a business. The nerve, the audacity of you. You know what I mean? So it's just so much. But I really realized this weekend, and a lot of it was due to having conversations with my husband, but I really be catastrophizing things. And the thing is that for me, I typically, if you know me in real life, okay, this is pretty much who I am. This is who I am. But if you really know me in real life and we've had deep conversations, I'm a pretty genuinely optimistic person. I'm pretty happy and optimistic. And this is also why postpartum rocked my world so much, because I was not happy at all. I was not happy for so many months postpartum. I was grateful. I was grateful that I became a mom, and I was happy with my baby, and it was weird. It was okay, I don't know how to describe. Okay, let me think. So it was around whenever the sun would start setting, that's when my anxiety would really kick into high gear. I used to think like, okay, I don't know what this night is gonna bring. I don't know. And it probably was a lot of sleep deprivation too, and just exhaustion and just being fearful. I was a new mom. I didn't have none of my other friends close by had children, had any small children at that. And it was, it was just like, what do I do? I have to keep this little human alive. Am I doing the right thing? Am I everything that she needs me to be? Am I prepared for what each day is going to bring? Am I prepared for what the night is going to bring? Because I didn't know. I didn't know how much sleep I was going to get. I didn't know, would I wake up and be able to, like, would I sleep through her cries? Like, it was crazy. But I just remember being like really, really, really sad every time it would get dark out. When the summer started setting, I was just like high anxiety, on high alert. And it was really hard to express these emotions to people in my life because they knew me as like the person, who's always the happy one, the upbeat one, the positive one. And I still am. I've trained my brain now to spin things to the positive, but that I felt so out of, you know what it was? I really, really felt out of control. And I didn't even realize that I value being in control until I got pregnant. And I didn't know I was pregnant for 3 months. And I was totally out of control of that. I didn't know what was happening in my body. Okay. And then when I had the baby and then I gave birth via C-section, that was totally out of my control. I had prepared for a natural, unmedicated pregnancy. What happened? The total opposite of that. Okay. The light was that I guess I elected to have a C-section after like 50 hours of labor, but it was still like, okay, this was totally the opposite. Like, it was just constantly like surrendering my body to the development of the baby, surrendering my body to the birth that I didn't plan, and I didn't really want to have this birth. I just wanted a positive outcome. It was a lot of life lessons happening when life was life, and at the same time, like, it was like no preparation pretty much. It was just like, you're pregnant, there you go, and C-section, there you go, get ready for that, figure out how to recover from that on your own, because your mom had a C-section, she had 2 C-sections, and she's a soldier, so she is just like, girl, you be fine. And I'm like, I am not, it hurt, I'm hurting, it hurts so bad. But all these lessons, right? Oh my gosh. And then, like I said, the postpartum, I think it was more of a postpartum anxiety than it was postpartum depression, but it was just so much fear that I had all of a sudden. I used to love, example, this is one thing that people in my life know, like, I used to love traveling, and I still love to travel. I love to be in other places. But when it comes to getting on the plane to get there, your girl is just like, There are thoughts and anxieties that come up when I know I gotta fly somewhere that, like, I had never had before in my life. I have flown to Dubai, I have flown to Hawaii before, I have flown to Aruba, all over the world. But after I had my daughter, I was scared. I was really scared. And I'm like, where the heck did this come from? I literally still have to actively work to, like, okay, I have to look up statistics. I got to look up all type of stuff. I had to look up all the different pilot vlogs and what do they call it? Airline stewardess vlogs, like, on YouTube before I get on planes these days, because I'm just like, oh my God, I gotta get on a plane, And even though logically, like, I know this don't make no sense, Jelisa. I traveled an hour and a half to work every single day. Well, Monday through Friday, maybe once or twice a week I would telework. But, like, when I was pregnant, I was doing that. 9 months pregnant. When I had given birth and I went back to work, with 3 months later, I was traveling up and down the road with my daughter. An hour and a half. Had to pull over a lot of times to breastfeed. And I did that. I wasn't really afraid of that, but for some reason so all these different things. So that's why I'm titling this episode, You Are Ridiculous, okay? Because I had a conversation with my husband yesterday, and he was just reminding me of how ridiculous I sounded. Now, these are my words, not his. He didn't call me ridiculous, but he was pretty much like, he was like, when we were talking earlier, he was like, we just think so differently. And so we're working on our communication, right? Because a lot of times what we do is we will communicate to each other and expect the other person to just get it just because we get it. And that's not how we work. So we have to like really, really work on how we talk to each other so we can actually communicate effectively to one another, right? And sometimes we don't understand. And I had to also explain this to him a lot because I'm the talk in the relationship. And also because so many times I realized that like I will say something and he will interpret it a whole different way. And I'm like, I am telling you exactly what I need, exactly what I need from you, exactly what I want from you, exactly what I mean when I say XYZ, I mean XYZ. But he will interpret it as a whole different meaning. And I'd be like, what in the world? Why did you think that? Like, why did you think that I wasn't saying what I meant? Like, I am saying what I mean, right? So anyways, y'all, we working on that. It's a continuous process. We just celebrated 6 years of marriage and we are still working on our communication, okay? But I'm happy and I'm grateful that we're both still working on it. Like, we're not giving up, you know, and like just being like, whatever, this is how I am, you got to deal with it. You know what I mean? So I'm thankful for that. But so anyway, this conversation was funny. So this is after some conscious like communication, I guess, yeah, conscious communication between us two. And he was like, you know, I don't always know what to say to you because you really take things to a whole new level. Like you, like earlier that day, he didn't want to drive his car to the Super Bowl party we were going to because he's going to drive his car to we're going to go to a winery this weekend and it's far, so he didn't want to. He was like, let me just drive that way and we can drive your car this one. And I was like, no, first of all, my car is smaller, so this is going to sound so crazy when I say it out loud. Oh my God. So my car is smaller and it was raining and it was just nasty weather out and we were driving the whole family. First of all, my car is not as comfortable as his car, okay? I don't drive a luxury vehicle at the moment, okay? And I like to ride in luxury, especially when we're going for longer car rides, which we were driving about 45 minutes. And I was like, I want to ride in style. On top of that, I had a headache, so I just really wanted to be comfortable. And I didn't want to use my car because my car is older and, you know, all the things, right? But then what I said out loud is that, no, because if we get into an accident, we're all going to die. Like, there's no saving us in my car. Like, my car, if it gets smacked, it's over. He was like, what? Like, you sound crazy. And in my mind at the time, I was like, no, I don't. This is exactly what I think. People don't think like this. Like, they're, you know, after the Super Bowl, people are driving home. They're driving drunk. It's late at, you know, it's later at night. It's dark out. We have to drive really dark roads where we're going. And like one way, you know, one way streets and stuff like that. And he was like, girl, bye. We driving your car. So obviously we're fine because it's the next day. But we were talking about it on the way home from the Super Bowl, especially because our team lost. So, and the way they lost, you know what? Our team lost, so we were having a discussion, all right, and we kind of got into that, and I was just like, when he said it, I was like, are you right? Like, he does sound kind of crazy. But I also had to explain to him, like, look, yo, this is not just me. Like, I don't know what happened when I became a mom, but something switched in my brain. And it's like, I just be thinking the worst sometimes about things. I don't get to the point where I try to, like, act in that fear, which I think is a win, you know. But, you know, I do be thinking some crazy thoughts sometimes. And I know moms can relate, and maybe not just moms, but my whole brain is around motherhood right now. So like literally my daughter is at her aftercare program right now. And I'm like, oh my God, I hope that her friend is there. I hope she's playing with her friend. I hope she's not alone, you know, and just playing by herself at aftercare. And I'm like doing this podcast. I'm recording audio, video, and I'm thinking about her. And I'm also like, okay, I hope I cook, you know, the right dinner. Like all these different things, right? So many different things are in my brain at all times. And I think the difference with my husband and me is that, like, a lot of times he can just focus on like one thing. And I feel like for me, I could never just focus on like one thing. And I can never do that because I'm a mom and I'm always thinking about my daughter. Like, I'm always thinking about my daughter, even if she's not in my presence, you know? So it's weird. It's like you just want to do everything you can do to protect them and also teach them how to protect themselves, but also like have them live a life that's full of freedom and enjoy and really enjoy their lives and not be scared of the world. But meanwhile, we low-key are like scared of the world, which is crazy, but not so crazy, because also the older that you get, you just realize crazy stuff be happening in the world. But who wants to like harp on that? Like, who wants to think about that all the time? Like, what good does that do for us? And I always try to like switch my brain into that when I start thinking like, when I start thinking like, girl, is that because you just watched, Joe, what's the show? You? Is that because you just watched You that you think everybody is a stalker? Or something like that. Like, how you know how social media and also the things that we watch, really affect the way that we look at the world. So I really try to protect my peace in that I don't watch the news, and I also don't watch scary movies because I cannot, okay? Because I'd be thinking, like, I saw the trailer to the new Scream, and I was like, ooh, that's kind of cool. But I kept watching it because I was like, oh, this is different. Like, Scream is really running around and doing the things. And then, do you know, last night when we got home, I was scared, and I was thinking about Scream. This is why I can't even watch a scary movie. Like, I just, whatever. And Scream ain't even that scary. Like, I digress, but it's weird. So anyway, when in my research, I found that Forbes did a study a few years ago, and they found in their study, this was a study of like 1,300 individuals, and they found that mothers are more concerned than fathers for the safety of the world. This was 80% of women, of mothers, compared to 66% of fathers surveyed found that, mothers are more concerned for the safety of the world. And they also found that 20% more mothers than fathers feel like the financial system is stacked against them, right? And this was a study about fears and concerns around, it was more so geared toward branding and how different brands can position themselves in front of mothers, because mothers do tend to make the larger buying decisions for the families, or we kind of control that. Even if like the men act like they do, they always have to run it past us first. Okay. So anyway, so this was about that. So that's why I added that little tidbit in there. But also, something else that I found super interesting was that they also found that motherhood makes women less happy than motherhood makes women less happy than women who do not have children. And this is most likely due to disproportionate responsibilities of household management, child physical and emotional needs, and daily well-being, which puts a strain on the mother's personal well-being. And this is something that I can totally relate to, because it's hard to articulate it when you're in it, but I was like, oh, that's it. Like, that's what it is, because yes, I am a housewife. I don't have a traditional job. I work based on contracts, and if I'm not making offers, I'm not getting paid at the moment, right? But my husband, his income is a lot more steady. It's a lot higher. And so he does get frustrated with me sometimes, because he's like, are you even like trying to like really go out here and make this money and do this? And he's like, you're the Money Making Housewife. And I'm like, sir, first of all, yes. Second of all, the way that my brain is working right now at this point in my life, as we're also, we also have hopes and dreams to like grow our family, right? So it's like my mind is not just focused on the finances. Like, my mind is not just focused on money, right? My mind is really focused on, okay, yes, I'm building my brand and doing all these things, but I'm more so like focused on the family. Like, the family is what comes first in my mind. In your mind, it might be the finances and then the family, and I get it. It's like, I totally get it. Like, he is like responsible for the bills and he pays the bills and all of that, praise God. However, I'm like, that is the role that you are playing right now. So I respect that role, sir. I need you to respect the role that I am playing right now, in that I am focused on family things. And I didn't even realize how much, because he does help out in the household. He did all the laundry. Like, he does help me out when I need help. Like, tomorrow for Valentine's Day, we're going to cook the dinner together, which is great because he doesn't usually cook. So I'm like, oh, this is like that's my gift right there. So it's going to be a great night. I'm just saying. But anyway, So just dealing with the emotional, but with our daughter, right? She typically comes to me for everything. Like if I go away, she'll go to him. But if I like am home, she typically asks me when soon as she gets home. This is why I'm recording this podcast before she gets home, because she's like, mommy, mommy, mommy. And then even with her watching her shows, she's like, mommy, look what's happening. Look at the minion in their butt. And oh my God, mommy, like look, mommy, 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 mommy. So that's a lot, right? That, and then her emotional needs is typically like what I'm so in tune to, especially with her developmental delays. Like I feel as though that's like my priority, is being there for her, making sure that she has everything that she needs, making sure that she is good. And he does that in his way, which is providing financially, you know what I mean? And also he does provide emotionally and physically, but who's number one point of contact is me, okay? And I really love that. I really, really do. But it also is a huge strain. And it definitely has taken us time to, like, and we still work with this, right? It's still a challenge to us sometimes to like, there's really no balance basically. Like there's no balance in the emotional and physical well needs of our daughter. And it's like, there's what I'm trying to say is that there's like no real balance in like trying to be like, okay, no, I dealt with, I brushed her teeth 3 times this week. It's your turn. It's like, no, it just like the person that usually does it, which is him, he usually does that task. But if I got to do it, I'm just going to do it, and I can't, you really can't be tit for tat in marriage and things like that. But so that's why it is important to realize that, like, as a mom, like, I am not alone in this. I'm not alone, and it's not just all on me to, I'm not the only mom that has these fears and these doubts and these insecurities and all these things. And then dads just work differently and men work differently. And it's important for us to have these discussions in our marriages, in our partnerships, whether you're co-parenting or whatever. Like, it is important to have these discussions because it just brings things out in the open, and it helps us to develop a better understanding of each other's roles and how each other thinks. And then it's also important for us ourselves to acknowledge these things and realize that when we are having these fears and these thoughts, like, they're not real, and they really are a misuse of our imagination. And we could be thinking so many brighter, lighter, more joyful, more life-giving thoughts, and we're not doing that because we're wasting time and space and energy on these fears, right? And so it's just important, and you're gonna have them. You're still gonna have the fears. They're still gonna come up, but the more you realize that, and the more self-aware you become, you can begin to train your brain to realize, like, oh, this is a fear. This is like, it's not even real. This is something that, like, I'm just thinking of because of whatever. Maybe I watched something crazy. Maybe, I'm just a mom, so my brain is wired for, like, protecting my kid at all times, no matter what. But it's just a fear. I don't have to believe this. I can literally choose to accept this thought or reject this thought. And I'm in this moment, it's not helping me. If the fear is real, if it's a real fear, and it's like, girl, get out of this situation because this is not it. Get your child out of this place. This person is shady, whatever. Like, or you know what? Don't go there because they might have somebody, that you don't want around your child. Like, okay, that's when the fear protects us, right? But a lot of times, it could be destructive, right? So I do think, on one hand, our fears, they're wired. Our brains are wired to protect us, right? But we have to also realize, like, they're wired to protect us, right? A lot of times our brains cannot discern between what is a real fear or a perceived fear, what's a real threat or a perceived threat. So we have to realize, like, okay, how many times have I thought this before and it didn't even happen? Like, how many times have I actually thought this thought and it did not happen? And it will never happen. Like, how many times have I allowed this fear to hold me back in some way, shape, or form, or am I really, like, also projecting this fear onto my child? Even more destructive, right? Or am I teaching them how to protect themselves with this fear? It's just so much, right? But so overall, I just really felt like in that situation with my husband that I was being really ridiculous. I really was. And I ain't gonna tell him this. I mean, I might tell him this later. He ain't gonna listen to this, so that's fine. But he'll listen to me, so. But we have so many thoughts in a day. We have like thousands and thousands of thoughts. Like if I Google it right now, I'm sure I'll see the exact number. It's like 70,000 or something crazy like that, right? Now, out of all those thoughts, like they can't all be roses and ponies and rainbows. Like I get it. I totally get it. But the ones that we choose to accept and we choose to like use to create, beautiful things like this podcast, like a YouTube channel, like, teaching our kids whatever, like learning more about finances or whatever, things that could really make our lives better and really help us to really live out our purpose, to fulfill that purpose, and also to live and help improve the lives of other people around us. Like those are great thoughts, okay? But I just want to think what I was thinking, what I really wanted this podcast to be around today, but I would just start talking about everything. It's usually what happens when I record a podcast. But what if we vocalize these fears? Because a lot of times we will think them, at least for me, I will think them and I won't say them out loud. Because in my mind, I'm like, okay, I don't want to speak them into existence. But when my husband repeated back to me what I had said to him, I was like, oh, that does sound a little crazy. Now that you say it out loud. So I think one of the ways that we can start to really train our brains and train our brains to rewire our brains for, to just think and speak life this might be a little counterintuitive to what I just said, but listen, follow me here, is to actually speak these fears, like say them out loud, and just hear how ridiculous you sound a lot of times. Like hear how ridiculous you sound, because I know when I talk to my friends that love to travel so much and have traveled all over the world without a hitch, and I say like, oh my God, I'm scared to get on a plane and this and that, and they're like, and when I say it to them and then they repeat back to me, and then I'm just like, oh, that does sound kind of crazy. And on one hand, yeah, it's rational, but when you look up the statistics and you look up, flight and all of their safety protocols, it's like, girl, stop it. Stop. What are you really afraid of? Okay, it's not that, it's something else, So I want us to really focus, not even focus on them, but like I want us to, it's a weird number calling me. I want us to begin to maybe try that. Just try that on. Try next time that you are feeling a fear and it's like a recurring fear and it's really holding you back. You feel like you can't move forward in whatever area of your life because you thinking that XYZ gonna happen. Say it out loud. I dare you to. Say it out loud. Speak it into existence. Say it with your chest, okay? Say it with your chest. Sorry if I'm yelling at you too. But just say it with your chest because, oh man, it can... The thing, when he said it, and it really occurred to me like, oh my God, so many times I think these thoughts and I don't say them out loud. But maybe if I said them out loud more often, I wouldn't think them anymore. They would release that chokehold that they have on me. Maybe thinking these thoughts and I'll say them out loud would help me to actually release the power that they have over me, right? Because why am I letting any spirit of fear or timidity or whatever, like why am I letting that fear overtake me? You know what I mean? Like, because I mean, whatever you believe, but I believe that God did not create us with a spirit of fear or with a spirit of timidity or any of those emotions, discouragement, despair, none of that, okay? Now, I cannot recite the exact verse that came from, but I know it came from the Bible, okay, that good book. And it's in my favorite, it's in my favorite verses. It really is. It's in there, but I don't really want to look it up right now because it's going to take up time. However, that's one of my favorite Bible verses because I have to always remind myself that like, oh, it's right here, the first one. It's the first one. 2 Timothy chapter 1, verse 7. Listen, I didn't say I was perfect. Okay. For God has not given us a spirit of fear and timidity, but of power, love, and self-discipline. So when I hear that, I'm like, okay, girl, you have the power. You have the power of God inside of you. So why are you afraid of this? Why are you afraid of anything that is not from God? Fear is not from God. Okay. So I'll leave you with that today. Thank you so much for listening. I really hope that this message spoke to you. I believe it did. It was on my heart to share, and I felt like I had to say it. You're ridiculous, okay? And the sooner you realize that, the sooner that you can stop being so ridiculous, okay? You and me both, girl. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. I will talk to you again in the next episode. And yeah, have a great rest of your day, night, whatever it is. And remember, most fears and worries are a grand misuse of our imagination.